couple of months ago, I bought the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus because I wanted to see if it could finally cure my upgrade anxiety. And if you're watching this, you might be wondering something else. Is this actually a good handheld for you to buy right now? Before we jump in, and I'll tell you how the experience with the CLAW8 has been, for all of you that are aware of how the handheld market is going, there's a little bit of an elephant in the room. In fact, MSI has just released in some countries, and coming soon to Europe and the US, a brand new AMD-powered version of the CLAW8 called the CLAW8A, powered by the Z2 Ryzen Extreme chip. Well, we'll talk about that later because it's rather important, but first, here's how my journey with the CLAW8 has been. And let me give you a bit of background. I come from a Steam Deck OLED, which I love and I played a ton, but I couldn't stop chasing the next thing. So spec leaks, rumors, new handheld. It just pulled me out of gaming and enjoying games, so I decided to switch. By the way, there's a video up here about all of that story. And today, after using the Claw as my main handheld for 2 months, we're going to find out two things. Did it end up my constant chase, and is it worth buying right now for you? I got the Claw for one main reason, and that is raw power. We got the Intel Core Ultra 7 in here, 32 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM and a terabyte of storage. So compared to the Steam Deck OLED, which is where I came from, this thing really is a beast. And then we got that 8-inch 120Hz VRR screen. To me, that is absolutely stunning, even though it's not an OLED, but it looks super sharp and vibrant, and really the 920 x 1080 resolution does make a huge difference even in a handheld mode, and VRR makes everything look very silky even if you're just playing at 30 FPS. Besides of that, I wanted freedom. I wanted to be able to install anything I want, from Game Pass, which was a great discovery, to even things like Photoshop or even Excel, because at the end of the day, this is a Windows computer. And most of all, I wanted to stop looking for what's next. So you might be wondering, after a couple of months of use, what still impresses me about the CLAW8 AI Plus? And there's a few things that definitely stand out. First and foremost, it has to be the performance, because this thing absolutely rips. I did go and throw a fair amount of AAA titles on it, and AAAs because I like to play AAAs, but also I wanted to see how far I could take it with the machine and if the machine would play along. And after a bit of tweaking, everything worked. So I did put on things like Doom the Dark Ages, Forza Horizon 5, Cyberpunk 2077, Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. I'm currently playing Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers, and everything works after, as I said, a bit of tweaking. But the games look gorgeous, they run smooth, and you've got a really immersive experience here, especially paired with that screen, that 8-inch screen, which is rather large compared to other handhelds. You've got the panel that is 120 Hz, and all of that coming with VRR really helps to smooth things out. And the size, and especially the resolution, as I just mentioned, makes everything look very cinematic. I did actually add a matte screen protector, I said that in my review video, which works great for me. It cuts down reflections very nicely, and even though the Steam Deck OLED does have a beautiful screen, no doubt, every time I pick it up I always think this screen is just excellent. The rendition of colors, the rendition of the contrasts, the dark sides in the game, it's just beautiful, but I do not miss it at all, because here you still have very vivid colors that pop, and the clarity actually holds up very beautifully. Then comes the aspect that has to do with what I can go and install here, and the freedom that the machine gives me, and that's just sensational, because I did discover Game Pass. I didn't have any gaming experience with Xbox or Windows for many years, and Game Pass was really a game changer for me, because I played a lot more games, a lot more variety, more genres, and I did actually spend less money than I would have spent on Steam Deck, so that's a great thing. Plus there is other installers, like for example Epic Games, where you get a free game a week, and yeah, I did actually add a few free games, which was very cool too. And ultimately I have a full-fledged Windows machine at my disposal, so if I wanted to, I could go and just do spreadsheets on it. That's quite a cool thing to keep in mind. Then come the ergonomics. My hands are quite big. This is a big machine, and just for me it works really well. It actually feels very comfortable even over longer gaming sessions. The layout of the buttons and the sticks is absolutely fine for me, and no problems there. Everybody says the Steam Deck is super comfortable. I agree it is, but this is also extremely comfortable. And again, I don't miss the Steam Deck when I play with the CLAW8. Ultimately, what I really like is the build quality of the CLAW8, which is super solid. It's absolutely premium. And you've got these fans that stay extremely quiet. They never scream, they just whoosh. So you can play at night, you can play next to your partner in bed, you won't disturb anybody. And then, well, on top of that, you got the speakers, which are top notch. I installed Spotify as my music player of choice, and I game and play Spotify along with it, and it just works excellently. The sound is just a peach. Now, let's talk about the minor headaches, because of course the machine is not perfect, and these are mainly software-related issues, not hardware-related. I want to start talking about Windows, and by the way, disclaimer, Windows has been fairly good to me. Coming from Mac and being a long-time Mac user, I was expecting the worst listening to the internet, but this wasn't the case. Yes, Windows is quite a convoluted system, and it does require very big updates that take a long time and needs to frequently update, but all in all, once you get it running and once you sort a few small things out, and there's quite good guides online, I'm going to put one down in the description, then everything starts to run fairly smoothly. What I had the main problems with is Center M, which is the proprietary software that MSI put on here, through which you can control everything. There's been quite a few updates, if I'm not mistaken now. In the last couple of months, it's probably been 5 to 6, and there's been some great improvements. When I got this, I couldn't select the TDP, there was no chance. Now I can actually set the TDP manually, which is a great change, but still, whenever you try to launch it, sometimes it starts immediately, sometimes it doesn't start at all. So it's a little bit buggy from the user experience point of view. Then you've got the RGB lights. I was really hyped about them. I don't know why when I got them, because I saw them and I thought, wow, these look super cool. They do look super cool, but I actually barely use them because they don't sync with your game. So they feel a little bit more like a decoration, and honestly, I'm always like, I want to have the maximum power, I want to have the maximum battery life, and I don't want any distractions. So I thought, okay, I'll just switch them off, and I basically never use them. Then we've got the topic of portability. Even though this thing is a handheld, it's pretty hefty, 795 grams, and it's rather large in size. So the current case that I have, it doesn't really help. There isn't any slim cases still. I don't know, case producers, they seem to ignore the device. And it's not as easy to throw in your bag as maybe the Steam Deck is, or the Switch 2 or some other device. So it's a little bit bulky, but that's fine. And finally, you've got the battery life, which with the 80-hour watt battery really helps. But if you crank everything up to max, expect to be near a charger pretty soon. And now, the big one. Did the MSI Claw8 AI Plus finally cure my upgrade obsession? And the answer is mostly, because I still hop from game to game sometimes, and that's just how I'm wired. But when a game hooks me, like for example Mafia, the Definitive Edition, which I played a lot of on here, I just stop thinking about gear completely. And there are moments now, pretty long ones, where I feel that I have what I need, because there's a really good balance between power and performance here, and a really rounded package that makes me say, okay, I'm happy with it and I have what I need, and I'm not constantly thinking about upgrading. I'm not watching teardown videos at 1 AM. So in that sense, the Claw did fix me, and that's pretty huge. But as I said at the beginning, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the fact that MSI, bless them, has just gone and released the AMD-powered version of the CLAW8 with the Ryzen Z2 Extreme processor in it. And yes, the timing is rather unusual because the Intel model here hasn't been out for a full year yet. But here's the important part. Based on the early coverage that I've seen, the performance difference seems to be in the range of 7 to 9%. So for example, there was a test done on AAA gaming with Baldur's Gate 3 at 30 watt on the Z2 Extreme version running at 48 FPS, while the Intel version is running it at 44 FPS. And as it seems, the mid power, so 12 to 17 watt, and the low power wattages, they seem to actually favor the Intel version, which is more efficient. So that's nothing, and it's also not the kind of leap that makes this Intel version suddenly go obsolete, and that is really quite cool. And everything else, the build, the ergonomic, the screen, the Windows experience is identical. So if you're considering the Claw, don't let the newer version necessarily put you off, because this machine is still fantastic. You're likely to find it maybe in a few months down the line at a discount, which actually makes it even better to buy than before. So here's the bottom line. The MSI Claw8 AI Plus still is absolutely incredible machine. The new AMD version might be a little bit more powerful, but that doesn't change the experience this Intel model delivers right now. It is powerful, it's flexible, and with likely discounts on the Intel version, it's probably arguably the better value for most people. So if you are after a plug and play machine and simplicity, then the Steamdeck OLED is still the easiest option out there. But if you want a true handheld PC with the freedom to play everything, Steam, Game Pass, Epic, emulators, your spreadsheets, whatever it is, this is it. And honestly, I can say that after 2 months, I'm not looking for the next thing, I'm just playing. And that's the biggest compliment I can give. But what do you think? Would you pick the Intel Claw now or wait for the AMD version? And do you even care about those 7 to 9% performance difference? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear where you stand. And if you found this helpful, do hit the like and the subscribe buttons, because it helps Play Fever keep growing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!